Hey there, welcome back to the channel. So you've been watching these videos and you decided to take the plunge and buy your first good camera, if you will. And now that it's shown up, what happens next? Well, in this video, just going to give you a couple of quick ideas and tips to get you started on the right foot to taking good fire and public safety photos.
Battalion 2, engines, 35, 40, 34, and 27, ladder 40, and safety 1, house fire, 3312 Ashley King Drive, on station Charlotte.
Welcome to WGK Public Safety Images. I am a public safety photographer in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and this is my channel and I use it to post response videos. I also post videos that are all about different departments, companies, equipment, things like that. And then I also post Q&A videos where I try and answer questions that I frequently get as a public safety photographer. I would just ask that you like and subscribe, but otherwise, let's get on to the video. Okay, so you took the plunge. You want that new camera. You got yourself a new lens or a used camera and a used lens. What do you need to do to get started? Well, first thing I'm going to tell you, read your instruction manual. And I know if you're a typical guy, you don't want to read the manual. I'm telling you, read the manual. You don't have to read all the languages. You can skip the French, Spanish, and whatever those other ones are. But seriously, read over your manual. Look at each of the features. Look at what the capabilities are. I don't expect you to memorize it right now, but that is actually going to be helpful at some point down the road when you sit and you think, wait a minute, I remember there's a way to do that. Then you can go back and refer to the manual again. But read the manual. Can't stress that enough. See what the capabilities are. See what your camera will do. And then you're ready to take the next step. Okay, you got your new camera, you got your new lens. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put them together. The fittings are bayonet, so they're not threaded. It's not like a jar top or a screw. They fit in together. You'll always see that little dot on the side of the frame, and you're going to see a similar dot on the lens. Simply line those two up, give it a quarter turn, and it'll click into place. Your lens and your camera are now together and ready to go. So there's the first step. Another thing you should do early on is set the diopter adjustment. Your camera eyepiece has a little adjustment so you can bring it into focus. And it is one of the things that if you don't figure it out, can cause you some real concern. On the Fujifilm cameras, there's a little dial on the side of the eyepiece. You simply look through the eyepiece and turn that dial until the image is in focus. It's kind of nice if you want to take pictures without your glasses. You can use that same adjustment so that when you're looking through without your eyeglasses on, your image is in focus. I wear the glasses all the time, but I still adjust that. I will tell you that if you ever accidentally change that and you get out there and you start looking through and you're like, what's wrong with my camera? Why won't it focus? That's the first thing you want to check, is check that diopter and make sure it didn't get adjusted or unadjusted. One of the first things you're going to have to do to use your new camera is charge your battery. It probably came partially charged, but I would charge it up. What are you going to do while it's charging? Read your manual, but charge it up. Also, if you think you're going to be taking a lot of pictures, I'd recommend getting a couple of spare batteries. This is an area not to go cheap on. I'm a fan of getting the manufacturer's batteries. Yes, they seem to cost money, but again, I'm not sure $50 is too much to spend in your $1,500 camera. And yeah, you can buy third parties. They'll work. They don't seem to hold their charge as long. just my recommendation is get the manufacturer's battery for your camera, and if you have the money, maybe get a couple of extras and the ability to charge them up when you're out there on the road. You got your camera, you got your lens. The other thing you're gonna have to have is a memory card. Probably not an area to go cheap on. I'd buy a couple of good quality memory cards. All mine are SanDisk, but there's a couple of good brands out there. Pay attention to where you get it, especially if you're ordering online. Use a good SD card. There's not much worse than having a card go bad and losing images. So get a couple of them, keep them on there. Whenever you're getting ready with a new card, put it in your camera, format the card. Format the card with the camera you're going to use. Once you got your card in, your battery in, you're charged up, you're not quite ready to go yet, let's go over a couple of basic settings. Okay, let me begin by saying we're not going to review all of the settings, because as you start digging through that menu, you're going to see there's all kinds of stuff. For now, we're just going to do a few of the very basics that I would recommend you set or change before going out and taking pictures, even for the very first time. Most cameras, the menus are broken down into sections, and in a lot of cases, certainly with the Fujifilm cameras, you can also program buttons to do certain functions. At this point, I'd tell you, don't bother doing that yet. Just start using the camera and get comfortable with it and see what you like and what you're using a lot. And if you're constantly diving into the menu section, then that might be an area you might want to see about setting up a quick button. But for now, we'll just use the camera set up the way Fujifilm or your manufacturer designed it. For this part, I'm using my Fujifilm XS10's menu as kind of the demo, but they're all going to be different, and a lot of them even use different terminology. So again, another important reason to read your owner's manual. On this Fujifilm camera, the first thing you're going to see when you hit the menu button is the main set of sub-menus. So you're going to see the IQ, image quality, autofocus, manual focus settings, shooting settings, flash settings, and then some movie settings. And then there's also setup menu and a way you can create a custom menu if you're interested in doing that. Another little tip for those of you who absolutely refuse to read your camera's manual is nowadays lots and lots of great YouTube channels out there can help you, and you can search YouTube, and I would tell you be very specific. You know, I want to learn how to format a memory card in a Fujifilm X-T1, and there's probably a video out there that'll walk you through how to do that. And if you can't find that and it's Fujifilm related, you're always welcome to leave me a comment or a suggestion, and I can make that video if necessary. So first thing, go in and set the date and time. That's typically in the setup menu. Also, I would check the firmware on your camera, make sure it's the latest. Even if it's new, it may not be the latest. And certainly with Fujifilm, that's important. Their firmware updates tend to include some performance improvements. So check, make sure your firmware is current. You can find that information on the manufacturer's website. I go into the sound menu and I turn off all the sounds, all the beeps and things it does. They just drive me nuts. I'll usually leave the shutter click on, but I'll leave it on the lowest, softest setting. I would recommend, certainly if you're new, you probably want to be capturing JPEGs and using JPEGs, but I would set the camera up so it's capturing both JPEGs and RAW images. I'll talk more about RAW images versus JPEGs in an upcoming video. One setting I absolutely recommend you do before you head out on your first picture-taking journey is go into the button dial settings and turn off the option to shoot without a memory card. For some reason, Fujifilm defaults to being able to shoot without a memory card. I am assuming that's so when you're in the store, you could pick it up and push the button and it'll click. But the problem is if you forget to put a card in, it's not going to tell you. So under the button dial settings, if you go to the second page, you'll see shoot without card, and make sure that is turned off. Now, if you go out and you go to take a picture, nothing will happen, and it'll tell you there's no memory card. If that option is on, you'll just be out there clicking away, taking photographs, and not recording anything. So make sure that option is turned off. And trust me, I learned that one the hard way. When you're first starting out, I would just recommend setting the camera to automatic and let it do the decision making on proper exposure. Pay attention to what the camera's doing. That'll be helpful as you get a little farther in. But for now, let the camera do that. Also in the menu, in the setup, you'll find the memory card format option. A lot of cameras have quick defaults. My X-T5 has a 2 buttons you can push and it'll go right to format. The XS10 defaults to the setup and it's the top option on each of them. So that's where you go when you format your memory cards. But with those basic settings, now we are ready to go and try taking some pictures. But let me throw in a couple more little tips or ideas for you when you head out. When you're ready to go out and start taking pictures, another thing I'm going to tell you is to use good form. Think about if you've ever been golfing or bowling and you watch someone and you watch them swing or you watch them throw the ball and they look really good doing it, they're probably good at it, right? We've all watched that golfer who has that weird discombobulated swing and they do that and things don't turn out like they were hoping. Believe it or not, form is going to be important for when you're taking photos too. So there is kind of an accepted standard way to do it, right? We're going to hold our camera in our right hand. We're going to support the camera with our left hand. Right? This is going to give you a nice steady platform. We're trying to eliminate camera shake. You typically keep your arms tucked in. That'll keep it even more steady. And another little tip, if you're trying to hold it steady, if you're working with a slow shutter speed, but I would recommend you do it anyhow, is put your eye up to the viewfinder and use that as a third point of contact to help steady your camera. So, firm grip with the right hand, left hand supports it, including making all the adjustments, okay? From here, you can adjust the focal length, you can change your aperture ring, you can focus manually if that's what's necessary. Every time I see someone doing this, I know they haven't been taking pictures for a whole lot of time, and they probably have some shaky cameras, right? So use that left hand to support the camera. Place it against your eye, get a nice firm platform, and then gently squeeze the shutter and take your picture. Another thing, your camera's expensive. I strongly recommend you get and use a camera strap. I like the wrist strap. You can use a neck strap, but that's going to be helpful to you, especially if at some point you have to stop and make adjustments. It's nice to be able to put your camera down without actually putting your camera down. The neck strap is probably the better way to go. The only thing I would remind you is that if you're using it and you lean forward, don't forget your camera's going to swing out. You don't want it to hit anything. But I'm a big fan of using the neck strap or the wrist strap whenever you're walking around taking pictures. At the very least, I have the wrist strap on. It allows me to shake hands. So use the strap, help keep your investment protected. Try it again. And finally, my last piece of advice is as you start taking pictures, I would recommend you keep all of your pictures. Come up with a way to store them. I take a lot of pictures, and when I started, I would take 100 pictures and I'd go, I only like these 5, and I'd delete out the rest, and probably not the best way to go. Come up with a system where you can store them. If you're shooting raw, these are big files. So on your computer, your laptop, you may not be able to put that many on. I have a couple of external hard drives and I store mine on there. So I think it's important you come up with a system, how you're going to download, how you're going to work on, and then how you're going to keep those original files so you can go back and review them. And I've done that I've been taking pictures for a couple of years, gone back and looked at pictures I took 2 years ago, and been able to, I think, improve on them, make them a little better. You know, it's about learning. So, develop a system for storing your actual photographs and keep them. Obviously, if you're storing your photographs, you need to have a system where you can find them. And if you're looking for a way to do that, we'll make that another video where I'll talk about a system, a workflow that I use to help me organize and be able to find all my photographs. So there you go. There's a quick video for folks who have decided to make that jump from their phone to using a good camera. Hopefully this video helped inspire you, give you a couple of tips to get you started on the right foot. If you like it, please let me know. And if you don't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Otherwise, if you have any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, any other tips for new photographers, please let me know. Otherwise, my next suggestion is to get out there and start taking pictures. Bye.